Okay, welcome back everyone to part 3 of this tutorial series. This is part B of part 3, where we're going over making this basket in Nomad Sculpt for our Easter Bunny project that is just a tad too late for the season, but that's okay. It's still fun nonetheless. What you see before you is what we're going to be creating in this tutorial. This is my recommended method for creating a woven basket, and it is a little tough to do. I'm not going to lie. This is going to be very technical. We're going to be going into a lot of use in our radial. We're going to be using a lot of tubes. We're going to be doing a lot of modification to our tubes. And we'll also be using the curve tool, which is going to allow us to repeat some of these objects in a much easier way. But as you can see here, we've done a pretty decent job of mimicking everything it takes to make a woven basket. That said, let's go ahead and save where we're at right now. And I'm going to make a duplicate of this so that I don't accidentally destroy it while I'm trying to do this tutorial with you. And with that done, let's make sure that we've got 2 of these. And it looks like we need to do a new one. There we go. Okay, yeah. Again, when you're trying to save a new project or make a copy of a project, you'll hit your file menu up here, you'll hit save as, and then make sure you click new up here and save it with whatever file name that you're going to be doing for new. That way you have a copy of whatever your project is before you start absolutely annihilating it. And that's what we're going to be doing right now. We are going to delete this object, all of these objects, and we're going to start from scratch. Okay, we've got all those deleted. Let's go ahead and turn off some of our post-processing. That way we're not getting distracted by all of that. We've got our cute little bunny here ready and waiting for us. Let's hit the home button and let's start getting into all of this, which is going to be pretty intense. We're going to turn on our grid down here at the bottom. We need to make sure that that's on while we're working, because if we don't have it, it's going to make what we're doing pretty tough. The next thing that we need to do is we need to make sure we're zoomed out pretty far on the grid, because the way we're going to be designing this, we're going to be relying on the grid a lot to help us with positioning. And if we don't have enough little marks on our grid to position everything, it's going to make it a little more, it's going to make it tough to line everything up. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to make these kind of, these woven pieces, the vertical woven pieces first. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And if you think about that, that's just a quarter of our total basket. That means we need 20 of these, right? So if my math is trustworthy, we need 20 of these. So we're going to make the first one, and then we're going to use a very cool radial tool that will help us do the rest. We're going to click the tube over here on the right. We're going to come here on the left. We are going to make an open curve tube, and we are then going to come here, and then we're just going to draw a straight line just like this. Now, as soon as we draw these tubes, they look pretty horrendous the first time you draw one. If your hand is as unsteady as mine is, it's not going to look great, but that's not a big deal. All we got to do is drag each one of these circles on top of another one. It'll get rid of it. And then we just need the 2 points here. To add points, again, you just click. To remove them, you just drag one on top of the other. As long as they're adjacent to each other, they will delete. Now, what we need to do with this, we've got a tube. It's on the screen. It's here. I keep forgetting if you can't drag your camera while you're in curve view. You need to switch to camera view, and then you can drag your camera around. We just need to make sure that this thing is perfectly lined up. We are in our front view to do this, and we can use our grid to help snap things in. As soon as we navigate away from that view, we start to get to where we lose any of our snapping, and then these things are just free form, and they could be anywhere. We're going to be using our grid very carefully for this part of the project because we need to make sure that everything lines up, and that looks pretty straight. So we're lined up there. The next thing that we need to do is we need to change this tube's profile, because we need something that looks more like, flat woven pieces of basket. We don't need this tube shape. So we're going to come in here and we're going to click on profile. Now, what I did is I went ahead and built some presets for us. The first time you click profile, it's going to kind of snap things into a square. And so your tube is going to turn into this cube shape. What we need to do is we need to adjust this to where it's flat. Now, I've made a couple presets here. This one is a narrow one for handling the side of the basket going vertical. And this is a wider one that we're going to use on the side of the basket going horizontal. As you can see in our little demo picture, these horizontal ones are quite a bit wider than the vertical ones. So I've gone ahead and built profiles for that. But you probably don't care about my pre-built profiles. You want to see, how do I make one from scratch? Okay, so we need to make a profile from scratch that's going to match what we need to do here. To make your own profile, all you're going to do is start dragging these pieces, these points, to the shape that you're trying to make. And we need a thin shape. You just kind of glance over while you're building it. And as you change the shape, it'll change here as you change each point. Okay, that looks pretty good. And that's going to match the profile that I've built before. And the next thing that we need to do is we need to come here in this top view, and we're going to go ahead and add our radial. Okay, now you'll see that I've got at least 2 of these tubes. We need a total of 20. Okay, so we're going to click that radial tool. We'll come up here to this radial Y, and we're going to increase this to 20. Okay, once that's in place, we can go back to our tube inside the radial, right? Because when we add our radial, it's going to be parent to the tube. So we need to go to the child object, click on tube, and make sure that your gizmo tool is up. And we're going to move this tube outwards until we get this pattern here. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and move that to where the center of the tube rests on one of the grid lines, just to make it a little bit easier, tiny bit easier. Again, nothing about this is going to be easy, but I've practiced this about 2 or 3 times in the last 24 hours. So I'm hoping by now I've got it figured out as far as what I need to tell you to do. All right, so we've got our vertical tubes. Let's see, we might need to space them out a little bit farther than even that. Let's go. The goal is to line it up with one of these grid lines. But we need to make sure that it's at least about one single tube's width between them, just to start out with. Okay. Now that we've got that, we've got enough space in between them, we need to switch to our right-facing view. All right, so we're going to come up here, we're going to click on our little tennis ball, we're going to go into our right-facing view, and we're going to click back on this tube tool to align the tube tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our grid snapping to help us snap this in, and we're going to bring this in until these tubes touch each other or are close to touching each other at the bottom of the screen, or at the bottom, at the base of the basket. And that's going to be a safe bet right there. That looks pretty good. And we're well on our way to doing the rest of this. All right, now we're going to get into the hard part. This was the easy part. Now we're going to start doing the hard part. We're going to come back into the top of this view. We need to close this one out. We're going to add another tube, but this time we're just going to draw it in, and we're going to be drawing we're going to come over here on the left. We're going to be drawing a closed tube this time. And we're just going to make that ring around the top of our object. Now, right now it looks a little bit crazy. That's because as soon as you start drawing, it's going to try and drop that tube into your radial. And so it's going to try and repeat that 20 times in a circle. And we don't want that. So we need to go back up here into our objects list and then move that tube out of there. All right, now we need to start cleaning it up. What we need to do actually is we need to put a point everywhere there is one of these sides, vertical sides of the basket. And it's a little bit tricky because you got to line it up with the grid. And this is where you're going to get in the biggest fight, trying to get this lined up. But if you get it lined up, it's going to look fantastic. You just got to get there. That's the hard part. And that looks super wonky, and I'm only guessing that it looks like that maybe because are we off on the horizontal? No, we're still good. So yeah, it's just a matter of the grid is kind of fighting us a little bit on the positioning of these things and trying to get this to look like a reasonable circle shape is going to be tough, because if the grid lines don't match up, you're kind of out of luck. So we'll just do our best. We can come back in later and kind of fix this, but it's going to be a little wonky at first. Okay. All right, so this is going to be the top of our basket. All right. Now, if we notice in the top of our basket, or on the top of our basket, we've got this kind of twisted woven shape that we need to replicate. Now, right now we've got a tube, and it doesn't matter how much we twist this thing, it's not going to do anything. What we need to do is we need to edit the profile, just like we did with our vertical tubes. We're going to click profile up here, and now we need to start twisting this thing. But before we start twisting it, we need to edit the profile of this to make it look more presentable. So we're going to go to our presets. I've built one just for this, and the profile is going to look like this. Okay, so how did we get here? This profile actually, yeah, that'll cover the whole thing. How did we get here? So it's not too tough to do. You're kind of just taking these outer points. We can just add points here, and then we're just overlapping them, and then we're making these circular here. If you tap them, they become rounded edges. If you tap it and it's black, it'll be a sharp edge. So all we're doing is we're making a couple of these overlap each other, kind of like that. Getting the position right can be a little tough. And then we're just going to tap these to where we've got something that looks like this. And we might even have to B-spline it to get it to look right, but it's going to look kind of like that. There we go. That looks better. Okay. And we're doing that just so we can make this look like it's made out of more than one tube, but we don't want to do two tubes twisting around each other. It's just going to be a nightmare to get it lined up. So we've got it set up to where now with our profile, we've made it look like it's two tubes. We can come back in here, and again, we can try and line this stuff up, but we might be wasting a whole lot of time trying to do that. So, and that is what I recommend, at least for now. Let's see here. Now we need to add in our twists. We're going to tap this twist 2 times. Tapping it the first time lets us control a single twist in the object. Like I said, we can rotate this thing all day long with that single twist, but all it is rotating the object on its axis. It's not super helpful. We need to click it twice so that it basically has 2 different ends. And then we're going to grab one of these, and we're just going to keep twisting like this. And it's going to be a pretty high number. You're going to have to do this quite a bit to get it to work. But then it's going to look something like that, which looks very similar to what we're working with. And we can come in on our radius. We can plump this up a bit to make it, more proportional to what we're doing. And that's pretty good. Let's see here. Let's go to our profile. We got Catum roll. We got our preset. It looks like my preset looks a bit better here than the one that I had. And it looks like I had overlapped and put a single point here in the middle. This is kind of hard to remember how to do. That's why I ended up saving this. Once you've got it figured out, go ahead and play with this tool. Try and get this pattern. Once you've got it figured out, hit preset, hit new, and it'll save that preset if you ever need to use that again. We're going to be using that a couple times in this tutorial, so definitely recommend saving this profile preset because you're going to end up making one here, and then you'll make one for the bottom of the basket as well. We can kind of cheat actually, and just we can just clone this tool, clone this object, and then pull it down and then shrink it down, and that'll help a lot. Also, if for some reason your origin gets offset here, you have this pivot button over here on the left, and if you hit center, that helps. That helps quite a bit, and then you can undo some of the rotation on this, which isn't super helpful actually. Just hit a line, and then you can pull it into position there. Save yourself a ton of time. Remember, you've got these tools off to the left to help you navigate your environment and navigate objects around in the environment without blowing any brain cells trying to get things figured out. Okay, we've got the top and bottom of our basket. You know what? Let's go ahead, stay on topic. Let's do the handle here, because that matches what we're doing right now. What we can do, super simple way. We clone this, we come here, we turn on our snapping. Yours is normally going to be, if you turn on snapping, it'll normally be at 90 degrees, which is perfectly fine for what we need to do. We need to move this 90 degrees. Again, I need to reset the pivot to the center of this object. Now, once it's reset, I can move things without it getting too weird. We're going to move the handle into position like that. We're going to go to our front view. But we only need half this handle, right? So we're going to validate that. We're going to come off to the right-hand side, and we're looking for trim, all right? We're going to click this trim button. We're going to look for, on the left side, for our trim tool, we're going to click rectangle. make sure your auto validate is already on. And then all we got to do is find where we want to cut it off. We're going to go for the center, pull down like that, and boom, we trim away all of that excess. And now we've got the handle done. Click on your camera and you can kind of pull things around again. That handle shape, not going to be super correct right away. We'll just use this move tool. We'll tap on that and then we'll just pull it up and pull it up until it's kind of matching that shape of our reference. And it looks like our basket is quite a bit taller. It doesn't super matter. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but that's more than enough. Okay. That's one of the hard parts done, but it gets worse. Okay, so we're done with these. So we're going to go ahead and you can drag your pencil across all the eyes so that you can get rid of them. What we need to do next is we need to do this weaving pattern in and out of each one of these. And this is the hard part. It's pretty important at this point that we have quite a bit of grid lines to choose from. We actually might need to temporarily scale everything up. Actually, so that we have access to more grid. Like that. Because we're gonna need as many grid points as possible to pull this off. Okay, again, we'll turn those tubes off because now we need to access. We're gonna do the same thing that we did a minute ago. We're gonna make a tube tool, curve, closed, auto validated, and then we're gonna drag in a circle. Same thing. We're gonna click each point and drag these into position. There we go. Not too tough. I feel like my snapping is not working, and it wasn't. So there we go. Now snapping's turned on. I feel like we were almost better off without it. You can use your camera view, rotate just off center, and then you can just manually position these, which is fine too. Okay, now that we got that in there, we're going to go back to our profile. We're going to go back to our preset that we made earlier. We're going to click that, and now we have our preset. I've always noticed that it's going to be not the same. So what you'll need to do is you'll go back into your profile. You've got your preset loaded. The fast way to do this is just to drag these out like this. And then that'll fix the orientation. You can do that. And we kind of need to anyway, because we've got to make this thing wider than the last one. So you're going to do something like that. So it needs to be a little bit wider than the one that you were using before, just to maintain what we're trying, the aesthetic that we're going for. All right, with that in place, again, we're going to come through here, and the next thing that we're going to do, make sure that we got this right. We're going to hit twist, and we're only going to tap it one time, and we're going to twist this. Let's go to the left side view. We're going to twist this. grab the pink one. Don't grab the one that I was grabbing. We're going to twist this so that it aligns with the stuff that we're working on. And then again, we need to make sure that everything is on the same plane. So we're going to carefully tap these into position. This is the tedious part, so don't be impatient here. It'll cost you a little bit. So like that. And again, if you rotate just off that top axis and then you start moving things around, that's when you start losing that horizontal alignment that you work so hard for. It's okay if it's a little bit aligned, because this thing, of course, is not going to be perfect, which is totally fine. All right. Once you've done that, we've got to go in and we've got to weave these like this in and out of each one of these vertical tubes that we've already built. So we're going to just come here and tap in and tap out, in and out. This is not exactly the most fun thing to do, but it is fun when you finish it. It does look really cool when you finish it. Okay, that looks pretty good. That's exactly where we need it. And the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to come over here. We're going to click our tennis ball, go to our front view. We're going to click on this tube. We are going to clone this one. All right. And with the clone, the reason why we're cloning is because we need to offset from where we were by rotating this thing. So we're going to make sure that we go into our Gizmo tool, click your top view. Of course, your pivot is going to be off again, so click pivot, recenter. That's going to help a lot. And then we need to grab, I don't know if a 45-degree offset is going to be appropriate for what we're doing because we still have snapping on. Just go ahead and turn it off. You're going to eyeball this. And then you're just going to rotate this just like that. And you're going to notice that it's not going to be perfect. It's got to be close, but it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? What we can do is we can leave it about like that. Let's turn off the eyeball for the other one, and let's go back in, and we got to start kind of maneuvering this back into position. So anywhere it's kind of off a little bit, just try and get it in where it's supposed to actually be, like that. And thankfully, most of the work is done for us already by copying that other one. And we can just come in and knock that out really quick. Okay. That's it. Now we're gonna use our Gizmo tool. We're gonna pull this one down. We need to reference it to the other one. We're gonna pull that one down. We need to shrink it. Make sure your pivot point is reset to center, because even shrinking it while it's off center is not great. Then we're going to grab this orange ring. We're going to shrink this down so that it'll fit. Just need to pay attention that you don't start clipping through. We're going to make it pretty snug up against the one that was there before, just like that. And now is the cool part. We're going to grab both of these. We're going to hit the checkbox for both of those. We're going to click add, and then we're going to click curve. And this is the fun part. We need to make sure snapping is turned off. You do not want snapping on while you're doing this. It's going to make a huge mess. We're going to do that. Then we're going to click on this curve modifier here, we're gonna pull this down and align it with our grid there. And then we're gonna pull this one down and align it with the grid here. Yeah, and it's gonna make things look a little rough, but that's part of this process, so we'll have to get used to it. Okay. Now, what we need to do, you're probably thinking, okay, this is starting to look something like a basket. We're going to increase our count. Let's take it to 5, maybe 4. Yeah. And then what we need to do is just kind of nudge this. That's correct. This one needs to come up just a touch, maybe. We can leave it like that. All right. So once we're here, once we've got this lined up, all we got to do now, once you've got them lined up, we're going to go into radius. We're going to click this so that we see 2 of these line and dots so that we can control the bottom radius, and we're going to pull this in until we've got a good looking basket weave, just like that. And again, this is where we're going to have to adjust the number of these. I kicked it up to 5, and 5 looks, oh man, that looks spot on. 5 looks great. I can pull this line down just a little bit, and we're there. That's the basket. And let's turn these back on. And now we have a fully formed basket for our Easter bunny to hold all the eggs. Minus the bottom. That's the easy part, of course. Let's go ahead and let's click validate. You can keep instances when you validate this. That'll be just fine. We can do that with the rest of this. Yes, keep our instances. Let's go ahead and select these other tubes and validate those, because we're ready to start painting and modifying. We'll go ahead and throw in a bottom to the basket. Why not? Click add. We'll just throw in a cylinder real quick. Super simple. Go into this modifier tool, expand the cylinder out by grabbing the middle of it like that. And then we're just going to shrink it down. Let's do X-ray so that we can see. We're just going to pull it in like that. That's perfect. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this. Nobody's going to see the bottom of the basket at all. Okay. And then we'll click validate, turn off X-ray, and the bottom of the basket is done. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's paint it. It looks nice. Let's make it look even better. So we can just, again, drag to select all of these. We're going to click on, we need our paint tool. It's going to let us paint, I think. We're going to make sure our roughness is highlighted. We're going to be making this look pretty rough like that. Make sure your metallic is either off or set to 0. Opacity is off, and then just choose a good color. To get the color, if you're having trouble matching the brown, you can just click this eyedropper and then just eyedrop the color that you're trying to get off of the basket or reference image, whatever you've got. And we're just going to hit paint all. And that is a completed basket. Okay. When we come back in this tutorial, we're going to go over adding the textures to all of this stuff. So we're going to be playing with alpha mass and adding that. One technique I recommend that we'll probably try is we'll AI generate some textures that we need in order to apply them to all this stuff. We're going to need it for the bottom grass mat and tufts of grass coming up, the fur on the bunny, and for the basket. And then we might need some texturing for these eggs to make them look a little more interesting. But that's what we're looking at. Let me go into some post-processing views so that we can see what this thing will look like once we're all done. It's going to look something like that. Very cool looking basket. We'll go ahead and hit our turntable view so that we can see. Oh, I got to turn the grid off. It looks a little ridiculous with that. So you just come up here and the Nomad, you click that button, you hit turntable, and you get this nice final finish look of your hard work that you put in. Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone in the next tutorial. I hope you learned a ton from this video. This will probably be one of the more intense videos that I've done as far as using all the tools that Nomad has to offer as far as designing more complex objects. And next week, we'll jump into all our texture modeling and see if we can wrap this project up with an official part 4. I'll see you all next video. Please also like and subscribe if you liked what you saw. See you then.